Right now, as you're settling into this moment, your body already knows something important. It recognizes this as a time for rest, for letting go, for allowing your mind to wander into ancient wisdom. And that's exactly where we're going tonight, back to a time when human brains were 40% larger than yours, when our ancestors possessed cognitive powers that might seem almost superhuman to us now. Picture yourself lying in bed 30,000 years ago. You're in a cave, surrounded by your family. The fire flickers gently against stone walls that have sheltered humans for generations. Your head rests on soft furs, and as you close your eyes, preparing for sleep just as you're preparing now, there's something remarkable about your brain that you don't even know. Inside your skull, you have approximately 1,600 cubic centimeters of brain tissue. That's extraordinary. That's massive. That's 40% more than the average modern human brain, which measures around 1,350 cubic centimeters. For 300,000 years, humans have found peace in stories like this, stories that connect us to our deepest past, that remind us we're part of an unbroken chain of consciousness, stretching back through countless generations. Tonight, you're safe in this exploration, held by the same curiosity that kept your ancestors alive, the same wonder that made them look up at the stars and ask the eternal questions. Your brain shrinking isn't a failure. It's not a degradation or devolution. It's one of the most fascinating stories in human evolution, a tale of adaptation, optimization, and the surprising trade-offs that made modern civilization possible. As you sink deeper into comfort, letting the day's tensions release from your shoulders, your jaw, your mind, we're going to discover together what we lost, what we kept, and what ancient wisdom your smaller brain still carries in its intricate folds. Imagine holding two skulls in your hands. One is from a Cro-Magnon human who lived 40,000 years ago in what we now call France. The other is a modern human skull, perhaps even similar to your own. The weight difference would be noticeable immediately. That ancient skull is heavier, larger, more robust. The cranial capacity is simply bigger. Place your hand on your own head right now if you'd like, and feel the shape of your skull. Inside is your brain, compact and efficient, processing these words, creating images, connecting ideas. It's a marvel of evolution. But that ancient brain, that was a different kind of marvel entirely. The question that scientists have puzzled over for decades is simple but profound. Why? Why did our brains shrink? And more importantly, what does that mean for who you are right now, lying here, preparing for rest, carrying forward the legacy of those massive-brained ancestors? As you settle into your pillow, notice your breathing. It's probably slowing down naturally, finding its own rhythm, just as it has for every human who ever lived. Our ancestors breathed the same rhythm before sleep, their larger brains quieting just like yours does now. That massive biological computer, that 1,600 cubic centimeter processing unit, would slow its conscious operations, allowing rest, allowing dreams, allowing the mysterious processes of memory consolidation that happened then, just as they happened for you tonight. The story begins 40,000 years ago, during what scientists call the Upper Paleolithic period. This was the Ice Age, when glaciers covered much of Europe and North America, when mammoths and woolly rhinoceros roamed frozen plains, when humans lived in small, tight-knit groups and possessed the largest brains our species has ever known. These weren't primitive people stumbling through a harsh world. They were cognitively sophisticated, possessing memory systems that would astound modern neuroscientists, spatial reasoning that rivals today's elite navigators, and social intelligence that managed complex tribal relationships without any written language or external memory systems. Think about what that means for a moment, letting the implications wash over you gently. Every single thing those humans needed to know had to be stored in their biological memory. Every plant species, which ones were edible, which were poisonous, which had medicinal properties. Every animal's behavior patterns, migration routes, mating seasons, danger signals. Every landscape feature, water sources, shelter locations, territorial boundaries, every social relationship, who could be trusted, who owed whom favors, which alliances were strong, which were fragile. All of this, thousands upon thousands of data points, stored in neural networks, retrievable on demand, essential for survival. Your brain today doesn't have to do this. You have GPS for navigation.
You have Google for information.
You have writing for memory storage. You have institutions and systems that hold knowledge externally, freeing up your internal processing for other tasks. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. First, we need to understand what existed before, what was lost, and why that loss might actually be one of humanity's greatest achievements. Let's step back through time now, gently, allowing the modern world to fade like evening light, letting the Ice Age world emerge in your mind's eye. The year is 40,000 years before present. You are walking across a landscape that no modern human has ever seen, vast, open, cold, and staggeringly beautiful. The air is crisp and clean, carrying scents of pine and earth and distant snow. The sky at night is filled with more stars than you've ever witnessed, an ocean of light undiminished by any human-made glow. You're joining a small group of humans, maybe 30 or 40 individuals, who make up your entire social world. These are the people you'll live with, hunt with, share stories with for your entire life. And inside each of their heads is a brain of remarkable size and power, evolved to handle the immense cognitive demands of Ice Age survival. Tonight, you're exactly where you need to be, safe, warm, connected to this ancient story that is also your story. Your smaller brain, your modern mind, is perfectly equipped to receive this wisdom, to understand these connections, to recognize yourself in those ancient humans who were, in the most fundamental ways, exactly like you. They felt love and fear and wonder. They told stories and made art and asked questions about meaning and purpose. They prepared for sleep just as you're preparing now, releasing the day's concerns, allowing consciousness to soften, trusting in the protective embrace of their community and the eternal rhythms of night and day. As we move forward through this journey together, you might find yourself drifting, thoughts wandering, attention floating, consciousness lowering in that gentle way that precedes sleep.
That's exactly right.
That's exactly where we want to be. Because the story of why Ice Age humans had 40% bigger brains than you isn't just a scientific curiosity. It's a key to understanding who you are, why your modern life feels the way it does, and how you can reclaim some of those ancient cognitive capacities while still benefiting from your smaller, more efficient brain. Feel the weight of your head on the pillow. Feel your brain resting inside your skull. This 3-pound universe that contains your entire subjective experience of reality. It's smaller than your ancestors' brains, yes, but it's no less miraculous. It's differently miraculous. It's optimized for a different world, a different set of challenges, a different way of being human. And understanding that difference, really feeling it deeply, can change how you see yourself and your place in the long story of human consciousness. 200,000 years ago, somewhere in Africa, the first anatomically modern humans emerged. Their brains were already impressive, around 1,200 cubic centimeters, larger than any other primate, packed with neural tissue that enabled complex language, abstract thought, and sophisticated tool use. But they weren't yet the cognitive giants they would become. Something extraordinary was about to happen. A biological transformation that would push human brain size to its absolute maximum. Let's call one of these early humans Kale. It's not his real name, of course. We don't know what naming conventions existed 40,000 years ago, but it helps to have someone to walk with through this story, someone to make the abstract concrete, the ancient personal. Kale lives during the height of the Ice Age, and inside his skull is one of the most remarkable brains that has ever existed in any human skull, anywhere at any time. 1,600 cubic centimeters. Some Ice Age humans had even larger brains, up to 1,700 cubic centimeters. To put that in perspective, modern human brains average around 1,350 cubic centimeters. That's a difference of roughly 250 to 350 cubic centimeters, about the size of a fist of additional neural tissue. That's not a small difference. That's 40% more processing power, 40% more neurons firing, 40% more biological computer dedicated to perceiving, remembering, and responding to the world. As you breathe slowly, feeling your own consciousness in this moment, try to imagine what it would feel like to have 40% more brain. Would you think differently? Remember more easily? Process information faster? The truth is complex and surprising, and we'll explore it together as we drift through this ancient night. Kyle wakes with the sun, as humans did for hundreds of thousands of years before artificial lighting changed everything. The dawn light filters through the cave entrance, and his massive brain immediately begins its work. He doesn't consciously think, time to start the day's cognitive processing. It just happens automatically. The way your brain right now is processing these words without you having to consciously direct each neural firing. But what Kyle's brain does from the moment he wakes would exhaust your brain within hours. He steps out of the cave and immediately his visual cortex begins parsing the landscape with extraordinary detail. That tree on the hillside, is it the same as yesterday, or has something changed? Those animal tracks in the frost, what species, how old, what direction? What does that mean for today's hunting strategy? The weather patterns. How do those clouds look? How does the wind feel? What does that imply about conditions this afternoon?
This isn't casual observation.
This is encyclopedic environmental awareness. Kyle knows hundreds of plant species by sight, knows which are edible in which seasons, knows their locations across 50 square miles of territory, knows their relationships to animal populations and weather patterns. He knows dozens of animal species intimately, their behaviors, their seasonal movements, their vulnerabilities, their dangers. He knows every water source, every shelter location, every territorial boundary with neighboring tribes. All of this information is stored in biological memory. There's no field guide to consult. There's no Google search. There's no written record. It's all in his brain, neural pathways carved by experience, strengthened by repetition, organized by some internal system of knowledge management that we're only beginning to understand through modern neuroscience. Your brain today, as it rests here preparing for sleep, still has these ancient structures. The hippocampus that Kyle used for spatial memory, you have it too. The visual processing centers that passed landscapes for survival information, you have those as well. But in Kyle's brain, these structures were larger, more robust, more constantly activated. His hippocampus was physically bigger than yours, carved by necessity into a three-dimensional database of survival. Let's follow Kyle through his day, understanding what that massive brain was actually doing, why natural selection favored such an energy-expensive organ, because brains are extraordinarily expensive. Your brain right now, at rest, is using approximately 20% of your total caloric intake. That's remarkable for an organ that weighs only about 3 pounds. Kyle's larger brain required even more energy, perhaps 25% of his total calories, maybe more. Evolution doesn't maintain expensive organs unless they provide survival advantages that outweigh their costs. Mid-morning, Kyle joins a hunting party. 5 men are going after a reindeer herd spotted 2 days ago near the river valley. The hunt requires extraordinary coordination. Each hunter needs to understand the plan, who goes where, what signal means what, how to adjust if the animals move unexpectedly. All of this is communicated through language, but it's not written down. It's understood, remembered, executed, based entirely on internal cognitive models. Kyle's spatial reasoning is working constantly. He's tracking his position relative to the other hunters, relative to the terrain, relative to the likely position of the animals. He's predicting movement. Where will the herd go when startled? What terrain features will channel their escape? Where should he position himself to maximize success? He's monitoring weather. How will wind affect scent? What will snow conditions do to noise? How will changing light affect visibility? This is computational complexity that modern brains rarely experience. You might use similar cognitive processes if you're an elite athlete playing team sports, or a military special forces operator coordinating complex tactics, or perhaps a conductor managing an orchestra. But for Kale, this is just normal life. This is Tuesday. This is survival. The hunt succeeds. The group brings down a reindeer, and now comes another cognitive challenge: butchering, distributing, storing. Who gets which parts? How do we repay debts from previous hunts? How do we maintain social harmony while ensuring everyone gets appropriate shares? Kyle's social brain is now dominant, tracking relationships, remembering obligations, reading subtle emotional cues in faces and body language, navigating the complex political dynamics of a group where everyone depends on everyone else for survival. By evening, sitting around the fire, Kyle's brain is still working, but differently now. The day's experiences are being integrated, stories are being shared, knowledge is being transmitted. An elder tells a story about a hunting technique embedding crucial information in narrative form so it will be remembered. A young person asks questions, and answers are provided through demonstration and explanation. Social bonds are strengthened through laughter and shared food and the ancient comfort of firelight and companionship. And then, as darkness deepens and people begin moving towards sleep, Kale's massive brain finally begins to quiet. The constant vigilance relaxes. The information processing slows. The body's circadian rhythms, synchronized perfectly with natural light cycles, produce melatonin and other sleep-inducing neurochemicals. That enormous brain, that 1,600 cubic centimeter processing unit, powers down into maintenance mode, consolidating memories, processing emotions, restoring neural function, dreaming dreams that perhaps prepare for tomorrow's challenges. Your breath is probably quite slow now, matching the ancient rhythm of humans preparing for sleep. Your consciousness lowering naturally as this story unfolds. Feel yourself there with Kyle, safe by the fire, part of the human family that stretches back through time, connected across 40,000 years by the shared experience of letting go, of resting, of trusting in sleep's restorative power. But here's what's fascinating. What makes this story more than just an interesting historical footnote? Kale's brain was not just randomly larger, it was specifically larger in certain areas. When modern neuroscientists study ancient skull fossils, they can create internal casts, endocasts, that show the shape of the brain that once filled that cranial space. And what they find is that Ice Age brains weren't just scaled-up versions of modern brains. They had different proportions. The visual processing centers were significantly larger. The parietal areas involved in spatial reasoning were more developed. The frontal regions were robust and extensive. This wasn't just more of the same. This was a brain optimized for a specific cognitive niche, processing enormous amounts of environmental information, maintaining vast stores of experiential knowledge, coordinating complex social relationships, all without any external memory aids whatsoever. Now, as you drift deeper into relaxation, we're going to explore the most remarkable feature of that massive brain, its memory systems. Because if there's one thing that separated Ice Age humans from us, one capability that has diminished most dramatically with brain shrinkage, it's the sheer power of their biological memory. And understanding what we lost there helps us understand what we gained elsewhere. Imagine remembering 300 plant species perfectly, not just recognizing them when you see them, but knowing their locations across 50 square miles of territory, knowing when each one flowers, when each one fruits, which parts are edible and in which seasons, which have medicinal properties and for what conditions, which are poisonous, and how to identify them reliably. Now imagine doing this without ever writing anything down, without photographs, without field guides, With only your biological memory, neurons firing in patterns, synaptic connections strengthened through repetition, information encoded in the physical structure of your brain. This is what Kale's brain did naturally, every day, as a basic requirement of survival. Let's watch him learning this information. He's a child, maybe 7 years old, walking with his grandmother through the territory his tribe has occupied for generations. She points to a plant, low-growing, with distinctive serrated leaves. This one, she says, eases pain. You find it near streams in summer.
Pick only the leaves, never the roots.
Chew it fresh or dry it for winter. Kyle's young brain encodes this information through multiple pathways. Visual memory captures the plant's appearance. Spatial memory notes its location relative to landmarks. Episodic memory stores the moment of learning, grandmother's voice, the summer sunshine, the smell of nearby water. Semantic memory extracts the factual content, pain relief, stream habitats, leaf harvest only. All of these memory systems work together, creating redundant encoding that makes the information nearly unforgettable. And this is just one plant. This scene repeats hundreds of times, year after year, building an encyclopedic botanical knowledge that would take modern humans years of formal education to match, if they could match it at all. The hippocampus, that's the brain structure most involved in this kind of learning. It's located in the medial temporal lobe, and it's crucial for spatial memory and episodic memory formation. London taxi drivers, who must memorize thousands of streets and routes to get their license, show measurably larger hippocampi than average people. Their brains physically change in response to the memory demands of their profession. Kale's hippocampus, shaped by a lifetime of spatial memory demands, would have been even more developed, larger, more densely connected, more efficient at encoding and retrieving location-based information. When he walked through familiar territory, his hippocampus was constantly active, matching current perception with stored memories, updating internal maps.
Noting changes and integrating new information. Your own hippocampus.
Right now, as you rest, still has this capability. It's not gone, it's just dormant, underused in a world where GPS provides navigation and Google provides information storage. But the ancient structures remain, waiting to be activated if you give them the right stimulation. Modern neuroscience studies show that navigation training can actually increase hippocampal volume in adults. Video game players who practice spatial navigation games show measurable hippocampal growth. The brain remains plastic, capable of strengthening these ancient memory systems if we choose to use them, but we rarely do. Why remember plant locations when you can buy vegetables at a supermarket? Why memorize territory when your smartphone provides instant mapping? Why develop spatial reasoning when GPS navigation handles that task effortlessly? The answer is complex. We've traded individual memory capacity for collective knowledge storage. We've exchanged internal databases for external systems. And this trade-off, as we'll see, enabled civilizational complexity that would have been impossible with Ice Age brains alone. But right now, in this quiet moment, it's worth feeling what was lost. The confidence of knowing your environment intimately. The security of having crucial information reliably accessible in your own mind. The cognitive satisfaction of memory mastery that required no external tools whatsoever. Kyle never worried about losing his phone and being unable to navigate. He never experienced the anxiety of depending on systems outside his control. His memory was his, permanently accessible, reliable as long as his brain functioned. That created a different kind of psychological security, a self-reliance that modern humans rarely experience. As you breathe slowly, perhaps you can recall a place from childhood that you remember perfectly, every tree, every path, every hiding spot. That's your ancient memory system still functioning, still capable of creating those rich, detailed spatial representations. Your Ice Age brain is still in there, underneath the modern adaptations, carrying forward capabilities refined over hundreds of thousands of years. Evening settles over the Ice Age landscape, and Kyle's tribe, gathers around the fire. This isn't just social time, this is the nightly information exchange, the distributed database synchronization, the collective intelligence maintenance system that kept Ice Age humans alive. Elena speaks first. She's the group's animal behavior expert, and today she observed something important. The reindeer are moving earlier than usual this year, heading north towards summer grounds. This means the hunting strategy needs adjustment. The timing of the big communal hunt must shift forward by perhaps a week. Marcus, the tool specialist, demonstrates a new technique he's developed for hafting spear points. He shows the younger hunters exactly how to wrap sinew for maximum strength, which adhesive mixtures work best in cold weather, how to test the connection for reliability. This knowledge, transmitted through demonstration and practice, will be remembered through muscle memory and visual encoding. Sarah, who has deep knowledge of weather patterns, describes the cloud formations she noticed today. They suggest a cold front arriving in 2 days, possibly bringing heavy snow. This affects everyone's plans: where to hunt, whether to gather firewood now, when to check trap lines. Around the fire, 40 people represent 40 specialized knowledge domains, all interconnected, all interdependent. Kyle's brain is tracking all of this, not every detail of everyone's expertise, but enough to know who knows what. When he needs information about medicinal plants, he'll consult the healer. When he has questions about distant tribal territories, he'll ask the elder who maintains geographical knowledge. When he's unsure about stone quality for tool making, he'll defer to the specialist who understands lithic properties. This is social cognition at its most complex. Kale's brain contains not just information, but meta-information, a social map showing the distribution of knowledge across his community. He knows who is reliable, who tends to exaggerate, who has proven expertise versus who merely claims it. He remembers reciprocal obligations, tracks alliance patterns, monitors status hierarchies, manages his own reputation through hundreds of daily social interactions. Modern social psychology research shows that humans can maintain stable social relationships with approximately 150 people, what's called Dunbar's number. This cognitive limit appears to be based on neocortex size. Ice Age humans, with their larger brains, might have been able to maintain slightly larger social networks, tracking more relationships with greater complexity. But the real cognitive load wasn't just remembering who's who, it was managing the intricate dance of cooperation that kept everyone alive. Ice Age survival was fundamentally social. No individual could survive alone. Success required coordinated hunting, shared resources, collective defense, cooperative child-rearing, and division of labor. Kale's brain is constantly engaged in this social calculus. When the hunt succeeds, how should meat be distributed? Simple fairness isn't always optimal. Some people need more calories, some contributed more effort, some are owed from previous exchanges. The distribution reflects and reinforces social relationships, and getting it wrong can create conflicts that threaten group cohesion. Your modern brain still carries these social processing capabilities, but you use them differently. Your social media networks might contain hundreds or thousands of connections, but how many of those are survival-critical relationships requiring constant cognitive investment? Ice Age social bonds were fewer but deeper, each one essential. Each one maintained through daily face-to-face interaction. As you rest here, perhaps you can feel the difference between the shallow breadth of modern social connection and the deep intensity of relationships where your survival depends on mutual trust and cooperation. Your ancient social brain, still present in your neural architecture, evolved for those intense, essential bonds, not for managing hundreds of casual acquaintances through screens. The firelight conversation continues into the night, knowledge flowing between minds, the collective intelligence of the tribe maintained and updated through oral tradition and demonstration. This is Ice Age education, no schools, no textbooks, but incredibly effective transmission of essential information. And as people drift towards sleep, as consciousness lowers and the fire burns down to coals, Kyle feels the deep satisfaction of belonging, of being part of something larger than himself, of contributing to and benefiting from the collective wisdom of his people. That feeling, that ancient sense of tribal belonging, is still available to you, still part of your emotional repertoire. Modern isolation might make it harder to access, but it's there, waiting to be activated when you find your tribe, your people, your community of deep mutual investment.
40,000 years.
That's how long the glacial cycles operated, slow rhythms of ice advance and retreat, sculpting not just landscapes, but human evolution itself. Every 40,000 years on average, massive ice sheets would grow across northern continents, locking up so much water that sea levels would drop by hundreds of feet. Then warming would come, ice would melt, seas would rise, and the cycle would begin again. For humans living through these cycles, life was constant adaptation. The reindeer migration routes that worked for one generation might be completely obsolete 2 generations later when climate shifted. Plant communities would move north or south following temperature bands. Reliable water sources would appear or disappear. Shelter locations that protected from prevailing winds in one climate regime might become dangerously exposed in another. Imagine trying to survive this level of environmental volatility with a small, rigid brain. You couldn't do it. You'd need enormous cognitive flexibility, the ability to quickly learn new patterns, discard outdated information, synthesize novel solutions from existing knowledge, predict future conditions based on current changes. Natural selection was brutally effective. Humans with slightly larger brains, slightly better memory, slightly more cognitive flexibility survived these transitions. Those with smaller, more rigid brains often didn't. Over hundreds of thousands of years, this selection pressure pushed human brain size to its absolute maximum. Your breath is probably very slow now, matching the patient rhythm of glacial time, slow, steady, powerful changes unfolding over timescales that dwarf individual human lives. Feel yourself held in that vast temporal current, part of a story so much larger than any single moment. Kyle's massive brain is the result of this pressure. His ancestors, who survived multiple glacial transitions, needed every cubic centimeter of neural tissue they possessed. They needed the memory capacity to learn entirely new ecosystems. They needed the cognitive flexibility to abandon strategies that no longer worked. They needed the processing power to predict environmental changes before those changes killed them. This created something remarkable. Brains that weren't just bigger, but more capable of abstract thought. When you have surplus cognitive capacity beyond immediate survival needs, you can afford to wonder about deeper questions. Why does the sun move across the sky? What happens after death?
What do dreams mean?
These questions have no immediate survival value, but they emerge naturally from brains with extra processing power. And this is where Ice Age brains began producing something entirely new in evolutionary history: art, symbolism, religion, philosophy. Around 40,000 years ago, precisely when brain size reached its peak, humans suddenly began creating cave paintings, carving figurines, crafting elaborate burials, making musical instruments. This wasn't coincidence. This was surplus brain capacity finding expression in activities beyond survival. Kyle's brain, when not engaged in tracking animals or remembering plants or managing social relationships,
Naturally turned toward meaning-making, toward beauty,
toward questions of existence and purpose. Your smaller, more efficient brain still has this capacity, still wonders, still creates, still seeks meaning. But the sheer surplus that Ice Age brains possessed, the extra processing power available after handling survival tasks, might have made these activities more prominent, more central to daily experience as the climate continued its eternal cycling. As ice advanced and retreated and advanced again, human brains reached their maximum sustainable size. Beyond 1600 or 1700 cubic centimeters, the energy costs became prohibitive. The birthing challenges became severe. The developmental requirements exceeded what childhood could provide. And then, about 12,000 years ago, everything changed. The ice retreated for the last time of the Pleistocene era, and humans discovered agriculture. And that discovery, that revolution in how humans lived, would trigger the great shrinking, the loss of 200 to 300 cubic centimeters of brain tissue over just a few thousand years. But we're not there yet. Right now, we're still in the age of giants, the age of maximum human cognitive capacity. And there's one more crucial aspect to understand before we can appreciate why brains began shrinking. Kale stands in a cave, torch in hand, mixing ochre pigment with animal fat. On the wall before him, previous artists have painted bison, horses, and mysterious abstract symbols. Tonight, he adds his own contribution, a human handprint, his palm pressed against stone, pigment blown around it through a hollow bone tube to create a negative image. This is not survival behavior. This creates no calories.
This kills no animals.
This is pure symbolic expression, human consciousness reflecting on itself, creating meaning where biology demands none. 40,000 years ago, precisely when human brains reached their maximum size, art exploded into human culture. Cave paintings appeared across Europe. Carved figurines emerged from excavated sites. Elaborate burials suggested belief in afterlife. Musical instruments, bone flutes with precisely drilled holes, demonstrated sophisticated understanding of acoustics and artistic expression. What changed? The brains did. Those massive frontal lobes, the expanded parietal cortex, the robust temporal regions, they provided surplus processing capacity beyond survival requirements. And that surplus naturally flowed into abstract thought, symbolic reasoning, metaphorical understanding, and existential questioning. Kale's handprint on the cave wall is a message across time. I was here.
I existed.
I mattered. That impulse, that need to mark existence with meaning, required a brain capable of self-reflection, temporal awareness, and symbolic representation. Your brain, even smaller, still carries this impulse. You still create meaning, still seek beauty, still wonder about existence. But Ice Age brains, with their extra capacity, might have experienced wonder more intensely, more constantly, with less cognitive effort. When Kyle looks at the night sky, unpolluted by artificial light, brilliantly clear in the cold air, showing thousands of stars invisible to modern urban dwellers, his brain naturally generates questions. What are those lights? Why do they move in patterns? What do they mean? His brain, with surplus capacity for abstract thought, creates cosmologies, mythologies, and spiritual frameworks that give structure to mystery. Modern neuroscience shows that spiritual and philosophical thinking activates specific brain networks, particularly in the frontal and temporal lobes. Those regions were proportionally larger in Ice Age brains. This suggests that the capacity for deep contemplation, for sustained abstract reasoning, for rich inner spiritual life might have been enhanced in our large-brained ancestors. As you rest here, your consciousness drifting in that space between waking and sleeping, you might touch something of what Kale experienced. Thoughts without immediate purpose, wonder without practical application, pure cognitive exploration for its own sake. The cave paintings they left behind show sophisticated understanding of perspective, anatomy, movement, and composition. These aren't crude stick figures. These are artistically sophisticated representations, created by minds fully capable of abstract visual reasoning. The carved figurines demonstrate even more remarkable cognitive capabilities, the ability to hold a three-dimensional mental image while carving, to plan ahead multiple steps in the creation process, to maintain attention and fine motor control through hours of detailed work. All of this emerged from brains at maximum size, brains with enough surplus capacity to support activities that provided no immediate survival benefit, but enormous cultural and psychological value. This capacity for meaning-making, for spiritual experience, for artistic expression, this became humanity's secret weapon, more powerful than claws or fangs or physical strength. It allowed humans to create shared mythologies that united tribes, to develop rituals that reinforced social bonds, to build cultures that could transmit complex information across generations. Kale finishes his handprint and steps back, seeing it join the dozens of others that cover this section of wall, a gallery of human existence, each print saying, "I was here," creating connection across time, asserting meaning in a vast and indifferent universe. Your smaller brain still makes meaning, still asserts existence, still creates beauty. But understanding what those massive brains were capable of helps us appreciate both what we lost and what we retained as evolution shaped us toward efficiency rather than maximum capacity. 12,000 years ago, the great ice sheets retreated for the last time. The climate stabilized into something resembling today's patterns, and humans made a discovery that would change everything: agriculture. In the Fertile Crescent, in China, in Mesoamerica, independently in multiple locations, humans began intentionally planting seeds, cultivating crops, domesticating animals. The hunter-gatherer lifestyle that had existed for hundreds of thousands of years began giving way to settled farming communities. And as agriculture spread, human brains began shrinking. Meet Mira, Kyle's descendant living 10,000 years later in an early farming village. Her brain measures 1,450 cubic centimeters, already 150 cubic centimeters smaller than her ancestors. She's still intelligent,
Still capable, still fully human.
but her cognitive demands are fundamentally different from Kale's. Mira wakes in a mud brick house, not a cave. She walks 200 yards to the fields, not 15 miles across varied terrain. She knows 30 plant species intimately, the domesticated crops her community depends on, not 300 wild species. Her territory is 5 square miles of village and farmland, not 50 square miles of hunting and gathering range. Her life is more predictable. Harvest comes at known times. Food is stored in granaries. Social relationships are stable within a permanent village structure. The constant environmental volatility that challenged Ice Age brains has disappeared.
Life is easier.
And easier life requires less brain. Natural selection operates on energy efficiency. Brains are expensive. Your brain right now uses 20% of your calories while representing only 2% of your body weight. If a smaller brain can handle life's challenges adequately, individuals with smaller brains have an advantage. They need fewer calories. They can survive on less food. In marginal conditions, this edge matters. Over hundreds of generations, average brain size decreased. Not catastrophically, not obviously, but steadily, measurably, significantly. By 5,000 years ago, human brains averaged around 1,400 cubic centimeters. By modern times, the average is 1,350 cubic centimeters. That's 250 cubic centimeters lost. That's the size of a fist of neural tissue gone from the human skull. That's hundreds of millions of neurons that no longer exist. That's processing capacity that evolution determined was no longer necessary. As you feel the weight of your head on the pillow, your brain resting inside your skull, you're carrying forward this legacy of optimization. Your ancestors survived the transition from maximum brain size to efficient brain size, and that survival shaped you. But what exactly was lost in this shrinking? That's the crucial question. Did we lose cognitive capacity,
Memory ability, intelligence?
or did we simply lose unnecessary surplus that was expensive to maintain? The answer is complex. We definitely lost some capabilities, spatial memory, environmental knowledge storage, perhaps certain aspects of perceptual acuity. London taxi drivers, who must memorize complex street networks, show larger hippocampi than average people. This suggests that the memory demands of Ice Age life maintained larger memory structures that agricultural life allowed to shrink, but we didn't lose intelligence. We didn't become stupid. We became specialized. Where Ice Age brains were generalists capable of everything, modern brains became nodes in a collective intelligence network. Mira doesn't need to remember 300 plant species because her village has specialists, elders who maintain botanical knowledge, healers who know medicinal properties, farmers who understand crop cultivation. She doesn't need to memorize 50 square miles because she lives in one location. She doesn't need to track complex migration patterns because domesticated animals are kept in pens. Her cognitive load is different, not lesser. She's learning new skills that Ice Age humans never needed: planting schedules, crop rotation, storage techniques, trade relationships with other villages, social hierarchies in larger permanent communities, property concepts. Inheritance rules. Agriculture didn't make humans dumb. It redistributed intelligence from individual brains into collective cultural systems. And this redistribution enabled something remarkable: civilization. Feel your breath, slow and steady as you rest here, understanding that you're part of this grand experiment in collective intelligence. Your individual brain shrunk so that humanity's collective brain could grow into libraries, universities, and the internet itself. In Mira's village, specialization is everything. Old Chen knows medicinal plants, which herbs treat fever, which poultices heal wounds, which teas ease childbirth.
Mira doesn't need to know this.
When someone is sick, they consult Chen. His knowledge is distributed across the community through his expertise. Young Marcus specializes in pottery, the right clay mixtures, firing temperatures, vessel shapes for different purposes. Everyone benefits from his skill without needing to master it themselves. Elder Sarah maintains historical knowledge, oral traditions about the village's founding, stories about ancestors, records of previous harvest yields and weather patterns. She's the living library, and everyone can access her knowledge through conversation. This is the great trade that agriculture enabled. Individual brains could shrink because knowledge became distributed across society instead of duplicated in every skull. Each person carries some specialized knowledge. The community collectively knows everything necessary for survival. Your modern life takes this principle to its extreme. You outsource navigation to GPS. You outsource memory to smartphones. You outsource calculation to computers. You outsource knowledge to Google. Your brain doesn't need to store what can be stored externally and accessed instantly. This isn't degradation. This is the culmination of a 10,000-year strategy. Build external brains, writing, books, databases, the internet, so internal brains can specialize and shrink. But there were costs. Ice Age humans had a self-sufficiency that modern humans can barely imagine. Kale could be dropped anywhere in his environment and survive using only the knowledge in his brain and the skills in his hands. Could you survive if dropped in the wilderness with nothing? Most modern humans couldn't last a week. That comprehensive environmental competence is gone for most of us. We've traded breadth for depth, self-sufficiency for specialization, individual capacity for collective capability. As you rest here, release any anxiety about this trade. It's not failure, it's adaptation. Evolution doesn't judge, it only responds to selection pressures. And the selection pressure of agricultural civilization favored smaller, more efficient brains that could specialize within supportive social networks. Mira's smaller brain is perfectly adequate for her life. She's happy, healthy, capable within her context. She doesn't miss the cognitive capabilities she never had, just as you don't miss abilities you never possessed. But there's something poignant about the loss. Those Ice Age humans possessed a kind of cognitive magnificence, comprehensive knowledge, self-sufficiency, robust memory systems, environmental mastery. They were complete unto themselves in ways modern humans are not. The cave paintings they left behind still move us 40,000 years later. The sophistication of their tools, the complexity of their social systems, the depth of their environmental knowledge, All of this speaks to cognitive capacities we've partly lost. Yet we gained something too. Mira's village can support populations that mobile hunter-gatherers never could. Agriculture enables permanent settlements, which enables specialization, which enables technological advancement, which eventually leads to writing, mathematics, science, and all the achievements of civilization. Your smaller brain is part of a larger brain, humanity's collective intelligence spanning billions of individuals, enabled by language, writing, and now digital networks.
You're not a diminished Ice Age human.
You're a node in something vastly larger that Ice Age humans could never have imagined. Feel the peace of this understanding settling over you like a warm blanket. You are exactly as you should be. Your brain is exactly the right size for your world. And the ancient capacities, though diminished, remain within you, available to be awakened if you choose to cultivate them. Dr. Sarah Chen sits in her laboratory at a major research university, examining endocasts of ancient human skulls. These are casts of the interior of the cranial cavity, showing the exact shape and size of the brain that once filled that space. On her desk are two particularly interesting specimens, a Cro-Magnon skull from 30,000 years ago and a modern human skull from the present day. The difference is immediately visible. The ancient skull is larger, more robust, with different proportions. Using precise measurement techniques and computational modeling, Dr. Chen can map which brain regions were larger in our ancestors and which have shrunk in modern humans. The results are fascinating and somewhat troubling. The visual cortex, the part of the brain that processes what we see, was significantly larger in Ice Age brains. The parietal regions involved in spatial reasoning and environmental awareness were more developed. The hippocampus, crucial for memory formation and spatial navigation, was more robust. This isn't just about total size. This is about specific capabilities that have diminished as brains shrunk. Your visual processing right now, as you rest here with eyes closed, is less powerful than Kale's would have been. You see less detail, process visual information less thoroughly, extract less meaning from what you perceive. Your spatial reasoning, your ability to navigate complex three-dimensional environments, to create mental maps, to understand spatial relationships, is diminished compared to Ice Age humans. This is why many modern people struggle with navigation, why we've become so dependent on GPS, why we get lost so easily in unfamiliar territory. Your memory systems, particularly spatial and episodic memory, have less capacity than your ancestors possessed. This is measurable through modern neuroscience. Studies of indigenous peoples who still live hunter-gatherer lifestyles show superior spatial memory and environmental knowledge compared to modern urban populations. But here's what's important to understand as you drift deeper into rest. This isn't about judging yourself as inadequate. This is about understanding the trade-offs evolution made. You lost certain capabilities because your environment no longer required them, and in exchange you gained other capabilities that we'll explore shortly. Dr. Chen's research suggests that some modern psychological challenges might be partly explained by this mismatch between Ice Age brains and modern environments. Attention deficit issues might relate to brains evolved for constant environmental scanning, being confined to static indoor spaces. Anxiety disorders might stem from threat detection systems calibrated for physical dangers, now responding to social and abstract threats. Depression might involve reward systems designed for physical accomplishment and social connection, struggling with isolated, sedentary modern life. Your brain evolved for one world and lives in another. That creates tension, discomfort, sometimes dysfunction. This isn't your fault. This is the inevitable consequence of evolution happening slowly while cultural change happens rapidly. The good news, the part that should let you sink even deeper into peaceful rest, is that understanding this mismatch allows you to work with your ancient brain rather than against it. You can provide the inputs your Ice Age neural systems crave: time in nature, physical movement, deep social connection, engagement with three-dimensional space. while still benefiting from modern civilization's advantages. Dr. Chen's research also reveals something encouraging. Brain plasticity persists throughout life. Your hippocampus can grow if you practice navigation. Your spatial reasoning can improve through engagement with complex environments. Your attention systems can strengthen through mindful practice. The ancient capacities aren't gone, they're dormant, waiting to be reawakened as you breathe slowly, feeling your body completely supported, your mind naturally relaxing. Know that your brain, even smaller than your ancestors, remains remarkably capable. It's different from theirs, optimized for different challenges, but no less valuable, no less human, no less worthy. The costs of smaller skulls are real, but not catastrophic. You've lost some capabilities, but retained others and gained new ones. The story isn't about decline, it's about adaptation, transformation, optimization for a changed world. And now,
As we move forward through this ancient night together,
we're going to explore the surprising advantages of your smaller brain, the ways in which efficiency beats raw size, the capabilities you possess that Ice Age humans lacked, the reasons why your 1350 cubic centimeter brain might actually be superior for modern life than Kale's 1600 cubic centimeter giant.
energy, everything in biology comes down to energy.
Your brain, right now as you rest here in comfortable darkness, is consuming approximately 350 calories per day, about 20% of your total energy expenditure. That's remarkable for an organ weighing only 3 pounds. Brain tissue is metabolically expensive, requiring constant glucose and oxygen to maintain function. Kyle's larger brain required even more energy, perhaps 500 calories daily, maybe more. That's 150 extra calories every single day just to maintain additional neural tissue. Over a year, that's 55,000 extra calories. That's roughly 15 pounds of fat storage required just to keep a larger brain running. In the Ice Age environment where food was uncertain and calories were precious, this was a significant burden. Large brains were worth it because they enabled survival through superior environmental knowledge and social coordination. But the moment agriculture made life more predictable and less cognitively demanding, smaller brains gained an evolutionary advantage. Your smaller brain isn't just smaller, it's more efficient. It does more with less. Neural connections have been pruned and optimized over thousands of generations. Where Kale's brain might use broad, energy-intensive neural networks, your brain uses refined, efficient pathways that accomplish similar results with lower energy costs. Think of it like computers. Early computers filled entire rooms, consumed enormous amounts of electricity, and had less processing power than your smartphone. Your smartphone is smaller, more efficient, and more capable. Evolution did something similar with human brains. Optimization replaced raw size. Modern neuroscience research supports this efficiency principle. Studies of expert performers, chess grandmasters, elite musicians, professional athletes, show something counterintuitive. Their brains show less activation during performance, not more. Expertise means using less neural energy to accomplish more. Efficient processing beats excessive processing. Your brain, shaped by 10,000 years of optimization, is an expert at being human in modern environments. It runs cooler, consumes less energy, and accomplishes its tasks with remarkable efficiency. Where Kale's brain was a powerful but fuel-hungry engine, yours is a finely tuned hybrid, adequate power with minimal consumption. As you sink deeper into rest, feeling your efficient brain naturally downregulating for sleep, requiring less and less energy as consciousness lowers, you're experiencing one of evolution's elegant solutions. Sleep restores neural function, consolidates memories, and clears metabolic waste, processes that work even better in smaller, more efficient brains. But efficiency isn't the only advantage. Your smaller brain came with increased neural plasticity, the ability to rewire connections, learn new skills, adapt to novel challenges. Ice Age brains were powerful but somewhat rigid, heavily optimized for their specific environmental niche. Your brain is more flexible, more capable of rapid learning, more adaptable to changing circumstances. This plasticity is why humans adapted so successfully to agriculture, despite it being completely novel in evolutionary terms. Within just a few thousand years, an eye blink in evolutionary time, humans went from mobile hunter-gatherers to settled farmers to urban civilizations. That required enormous cognitive flexibility, enormous learning capacity, enormous cultural adaptation. Your brain can learn skills that would baffle Ice Age humans. Reading, the ability to translate visual symbols into language and meaning, is completely unnatural. Nothing in evolution prepared brains for reading, yet children learn it in just a few years. Your brain's plasticity makes this possible, taking ancient visual and language systems and repurposing them for a task they never evolved to perform: mathematics, programming, abstract, symbolic reasoning. These are recent human inventions that require cognitive capabilities evolution never specifically selected for. Yet your flexible, plastic, efficient brain masters them through its remarkable ability to repurpose existing neural systems for novel tasks. Ice Age brains were optimized for their world. Your brain is optimized for flexibility itself, the ability to adapt to whatever world you find yourself in. In our rapidly changing modern environment, this flexibility is more valuable than raw processing power ever was. Feel yourself letting go completely now, trusting in your brain's efficiency, its capacity to handle sleep restoration with minimal conscious effort. Your brain knows what to do. It's been refined through millions of years of evolution to handle this transition perfectly. And its smaller size, its greater efficiency, actually makes it better at this essential biological process. Elite athletes have smaller brains on average than non-athletes. This isn't because athletics requires less intelligence, it's because efficient brains provide advantages in physical performance. Less energy diverted to brain maintenance means more available for muscle function. Smaller, but more efficient neural systems can process movement and coordination with less overhead. Your brain follows this same principle. It's not diminished, it's optimized.
It's not weaker, it's more refined.
It's not inferior to Ice Age brains. It's adapted for different challenges, designed for different environments, perfect for the world you actually inhabit. This understanding should bring deep peace as you rest here. You are not a degraded version of ancient humans. You are a differently optimized version, shaped by evolution to excel in your specific niche. Your smaller brain is precisely adequate for your life, carrying forward ancient capabilities,
while adding new ones that your ancestors never possessed. And
that leads us to perhaps the most remarkable
advantage of your modern brain, the ability to learn
at speeds that Ice Age humans could never match, to acquire completely novel skills in time frames that would have seemed miraculous to Kale, to master abstract cognitive challenges that his powerful but rigid brain might have struggled with. Kale is 7 years old when he begins learning to hunt. His father takes him out every day for years, teaching him to track animals, read signs in the environment, predict behavior, handle weapons. By the time Kyle is 15, he's finally competent enough to participate in serious hunts. 8 years of daily practice to master the essential survival skill of his culture. Now imagine a modern child learning to read. At age 5, they begin with letters. By age 7, they're reading simple books. By age 8, they're reading chapter books with complex narratives. 2 to 3 years to master a cognitive skill that is far more abstract, far more removed from anything evolution prepared us for than tracking animals through a forest. Your brain can do this. Kale's couldn't, at least not at this speed. The difference is neural plasticity, your brain's remarkable ability to rapidly form new connections, repurpose existing systems, and acquire completely novel capabilities. Reading hijacks your visual system, which evolved to recognize objects and faces, and connects it to language systems that evolved for speech. Nothing in your evolutionary history prepared these systems to work together for reading. Yet your plastic, flexible brain figures it out in just a few years, creating neural pathways that never existed in any human ancestor before writing was invented 5,000 years ago. As you rest here, your breathing slow and natural, consider what else your brain has learned that Ice Age brains never could. Perhaps you learned a foreign language in school, acquiring vocabulary and grammar rules through explicit study rather than childhood immersion. Perhaps you learned mathematics, abstract symbolic reasoning that has no direct connection to physical reality. Perhaps you learned programming, training your brain to think algorithmically, to break problems into logical steps, to manipulate pure abstraction. These are all skills that require enormous neural plasticity. Ice Age brains, optimized for their specific environmental niche, were less flexible. They were incredibly good at what they evolved to do, but adapting to completely novel challenges took longer, required more effort, felt less natural. Your smaller brain trades raw capacity for adaptability. You might not be able to memorize 300 plant species as easily as kale, but you can learn to read Chinese characters, understand calculus, program computers, analyze statistical data, interpret complex financial systems, navigate bureaucratic institutions, cognitive challenges that exist nowhere in nature, that evolution never anticipated, that require your brain to constantly repurpose ancient systems for modern tasks. Modern neuroscience shows that learning physically changes your brain. When you learn a new skill, dendritic connections multiply, synaptic strengths adjust, neural pathways reorganize. Your brain is constantly sculpting itself in response to experience. This plasticity persists throughout life, though it's strongest in childhood and gradually declines with age. But here's what's remarkable. Your brain's plasticity, even in adulthood, exceeds what Ice Age brains were capable of. Studies comparing modern humans with indigenous populations still living traditional lifestyles suggest that exposure to rapid cultural change and novel technologies actually enhances neural plasticity. Your brain, shaped by a world of constant novelty, has become exceptionally good at learning new things. Think of something you learned recently, perhaps a new app on your phone, a cooking technique, a skill at work, a hobby you picked up. Your brain accomplished this learning with remarkable efficiency, creating new neural pathways, integrating new information with existing knowledge, making rapid progress that would have taken Ice Age brains much longer. This is your superpower. Not greater memory, not superior environmental knowledge, not more robust spatial reasoning, but faster, more flexible, more adaptive learning. In a world that changes as rapidly as ours does, this adaptability is more valuable than any amount of raw processing power. Feel yourself sinking deeper into rest now, trusting that your brain's learning capabilities will continue tomorrow, that sleep itself is enhancing this plasticity through memory consolidation and neural reorganization. As you sleep tonight, your brain will strengthen the connections associated with recent learning, prune unnecessary pathways, optimize its networks for future adaptation. Kale's brain, powerful as it was, couldn't match this. His neural systems were more fixed, more specialized for their environment, less capable of rapid transformation. Your smaller, more efficient, more plastic brain represents an evolutionary advance, not a decline, optimization for a world of constant change rather than environmental stability. And this learning capability connects to something even more remarkable about your modern brain, the way it integrates with billions of other brains into a planetary intelligence network that dwarfs
anything Ice Age humans could have imagined.
That's where we're going next, into the understanding that your individual brain, small as it is, participates in something vastly larger. Kyle's knowledge dies with him. Everything he learned over his lifetime, the locations of hundreds of plants, the behaviors of dozens of animals, the stories passed down from his grandmother, the techniques he developed for hunting and tool-making, all of this disappears when his brain stops functioning. He can teach some of it to his children and tribe members, but much is lost. Each generation must relearn substantial portions of human knowledge. Your brain works differently. Right now, as you rest here in comfortable darkness, your 1,350 cubic centimeter brain is connected to 8 billion other human brains through language, writing, telecommunications, and the internet. You are not a solitary intelligence. You are a node in humanity's planetary consciousness. When you have a question, you can access the accumulated knowledge of the entire species within seconds. Google searches billions of pages of information. Wikipedia contains articles on millions of topics. YouTube hosts tutorials on virtually any skill. Academic databases hold centuries of research. The collective intelligence available to you exceeds what thousands of Ice Age tribes could have accumulated over thousands of years. This is the grand trade that evolution made. Individual brains shrunk so that collective intelligence could explode. Your personal biological memory is smaller than Kale's, but your access to collective memory is infinitely larger. You've exchanged personal storage capacity for network connectivity. Feel your breath, slow and gentle, as you recognize that you're part of something vast and beautiful, a species-wide consciousness that spans the planet, connects across time, accumulates knowledge faster than any individual brain could process. You're not diminished by your smaller brain. You're amplified by your connection to every other brain. When you learn something new, you often learn it from someone who lived decades or centuries ago, whose knowledge was preserved in books or recordings or digital formats. You stand on the shoulders of giants, accessing insights that took lifetimes to develop, integrating them into your understanding within hours or days. Kyle could only learn from the people physically present in his life, his tribe of perhaps 40 people, maybe a few hundred individuals over his entire lifetime if he traveled and made contact with neighboring groups. You can learn from millions of teachers, past and present, near and distant, speaking different languages, but all contributing to the collective knowledge you can access. This planetary brain, this global intelligence network, is still young. Writing only emerged 5,000 years ago. Printing only 500 years ago. The internet only 50 years ago. But already, humanity's collective intelligence vastly exceeds the sum of individual intelligences. We solve problems no individual could solve. We create technologies no single brain could design. We understand the universe at scales from quantum to cosmic that would baffle any isolated intelligence. Your smaller individual brain enabled this. If humans still had Ice Age brain sizes requiring 500 calories daily just for neural maintenance, we couldn't support large populations in cities. We couldn't specialize as thoroughly. We couldn't dedicate individuals to pure knowledge work, research, teaching, writing, because everyone would need to focus on basic survival. But with smaller, more efficient brains, humanity could grow to 8 billion individuals. Cities could support millions. Specialization could deepen. Knowledge workers could dedicate entire lifetimes to advancing human understanding in narrow domains. And all of this specialized knowledge could be preserved, transmitted, built upon by future generations as you drift deeper into rest, feeling yourself held in the vast web of human connection. Know that you contribute to this planetary intelligence even in small ways. Every conversation you have, every idea you share, every question you ask, every insight you develop, all of this feeds back into the collective. You receive knowledge from the network and you add to it, however modestly. Kyle was alone inside his powerful brain, carrying all his knowledge in isolation, losing it all at death. You are never alone. You're connected to every human who ever lived and recorded their thoughts, every person currently alive who shares their knowledge, every future human who will build on what your generation understands. This connection should bring deep peace as you rest here. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to remember everything. You don't have to solve every problem alone. The collective brain is there, accessible, supportive, infinitely larger than any individual mind could be. And this collective intelligence is still evolving. As artificial intelligence develops, as brain-computer interfaces emerge, as our communication networks grow more sophisticated, humanity's planetary consciousness becomes more integrated, more powerful, more capable of addressing challenges that would overwhelm any number of isolated individual brains. Your Ice Age ancestors would find this incomprehensible, the idea that knowledge could be preserved permanently, that minds could connect across vast distances, that a single individual could access humanity's accumulated wisdom within seconds. To them it would seem like magic, like communion with gods, like something beyond human capacity, but it's not magic. It's the natural result of 10,000 years of evolution favoring smaller individual brains that could connect into larger collective networks. You are the culmination of this process, your efficient brain optimized not for isolated survival, but for network participation, for receiving and transmitting information within the species-wide consciousness. As sleep approaches, as your individual consciousness naturally lowers, you remain connected to that larger consciousness. The knowledge you access today settles into memory. The connections you made with other minds persist. The small contribution you made to collective understanding remains in the network. You are part of something that transcends individual existence, something that continues regardless of any single brain's state. This is what your smaller brain bought for you: connection, participation, membership in something vastly larger than yourself. And that membership is more valuable than any amount of additional neural tissue could provide. Kyle's emotional life is intense but simple. He feels fear when predators approach, immediate, visceral, survival-focused. He feels joy when hunts succeed, direct, uncomplicated pleasure in food acquisition. He feels anger when social norms are violated, clear, straightforward tribal justice. He feels attachment to his children, powerful, biological, uncomplicated by abstract concerns. Your emotional life is far more complex. Right now, as you rest here, you might be feeling something subtle and layered, perhaps a gentle melancholy mixed with curiosity, maybe a bittersweet appreciation for time's passage, possibly an existential awareness of your smallness within vast scales of history. These are emotions that Ice Age brains processed differently, if at all. Modern human brains, through 10,000 years of cultural evolution and neural refinement, have developed extraordinary emotional sophistication. Your prefrontal cortex, the brain region just behind your forehead, has become remarkably skilled at emotional regulation, at holding multiple feelings simultaneously, at experiencing complex blends of emotion that ancient humans rarely encountered. You can feel nostalgia, that peculiar ache for the past, mixed with appreciation for memory.
Kyle probably couldn't feel this in the same way.
His life was present-focused, survival-oriented, without the leisure for extended reflection on bygone times. You can feel existential anxiety, concern about meaning, purpose, mortality in the abstract rather than immediate sense. Kyle felt fear of specific threats, this predator, that injury, this shortage of food. Your brain generates anxiety about abstract possibilities, future scenarios, philosophical questions. This might seem like a disadvantage, but it reflects sophisticated future planning capabilities. You can feel empathy for strangers, moral concern for people you'll never meet, emotional response to suffering in distant places, ethical discomfort about systemic injustices. Kyle's empathy was probably limited to his immediate tribe, the 40 people whose faces he knew, whose survival directly affected his own. Your emotional circle encompasses potentially billions. This emotional sophistication comes from your brain's architecture. The prefrontal cortex, which handles emotional regulation and complex decision-making, maintains strong connections to the limbic system, which generates emotions. In Ice Age brains, these connections existed but were less refined. Your brain has been optimized for emotional complexity through cultural evolution that shaped neural development. As you breathe slowly, sinking deeper into rest, notice the subtle emotional state you're experiencing right now. It's probably not simple, Not pure happiness or pure sadness, but something nuanced. Maybe peaceful curiosity.
Maybe contemplative ease.
Maybe gentle wonder tinged with comfortable fatigue. This is your sophisticated emotional architecture at work, blending multiple feelings into complex experiential states. Modern psychology recognizes dozens of distinct emotions, many of which require cultural context to even exist. Schadenfreude, pleasure at others' misfortune. Sadar, deep nostalgic longing. Mono, no-aware, gentle sadness at life's transience. These are culturally elaborated emotions that probably didn't exist for Ice Age humans in the same form. Your emotional intelligence extends to self-awareness. You can think about your emotions, analyze why you feel certain ways, recognize patterns in your emotional life, intentionally regulate your feelings. This metacognitive capability, thinking about thinking, feeling about feeling, represents advanced cognitive sophistication that Ice Age brains possessed less fully. Kyle felt emotions powerfully but probably didn't analyze them extensively. He responded to feelings with action. Fear prompted fleeing, anger prompted aggression, joy prompted celebration. Your brain adds an additional layer. You can feel angry and choose not to act on it. Feel afraid but rational, analyze whether the fear is justified. Feel joy but wonder about its deeper meaning. This emotional sophistication enables complex moral reasoning. You can hold ethical principles that go against immediate emotional responses. You can feel sympathy for people whose interests conflict with yours. You can experience moral guilt about abstract wrongs, environmental damage, social injustice, historical crimes. Ice Age brains operated on simpler moral systems: loyalty to tribe, reciprocal obligations, immediate fairness. Your capacity for emotional complexity also enables rich inner life. You daydream, fantasize, imagine alternative possibilities, reflect on life's meaning, create elaborate internal narratives. Kale's inner life was probably more action-focused, less elaborately reflective. He thought about hunting, tracking, tool-making, social relationships, concrete concerns with immediate relevance. Feel the peace that comes from understanding your emotional sophistication as an evolutionary achievement, not a burden. Yes, you can feel anxious about abstract concerns. Yes, you can experience complex negative emotions. But you can also feel profound appreciation for beauty, deep connection across time and space, moral satisfaction from principle-guided action, and subtle positive emotions that make human life rich beyond mere survival. Your brain's emotional intelligence is optimized for social complexity. Modern life involves navigating elaborate institutional structures, managing dozens of social relationships across different contexts, understanding implicit social rules, reading subtle emotional cues in diverse populations. Ice Age. Social life was simpler: one tribe, clear roles, straightforward status hierarchies. As sleep approaches, your sophisticated emotional regulation system is helping you settle. You can feel tired but not distressed. You can be alert to this story but not overstimulated. You can maintain gentle interest without arousal. This precise calibration of emotional state is something your refined prefrontal limbic connections handle automatically, creating optimal conditions for rest. Kyle's emotional transitions were probably more abrupt, from high alertness during hunting to exhaustion afterward, from intense social engagement to complete withdrawal. Your emotional modulation is smoother, more controlled, better suited for the constant social engagement and cognitive demands of modern life. This emotional sophistication is why you can lie here peacefully, listening to a story about ancient humans, feeling complex appreciation for your evolutionary history, while simultaneously relaxing towards sleep. You hold multiple intentions simultaneously: learning and resting, engaging and releasing, appreciating and letting go. This is advanced emotional intelligence that your smaller but more refined brain provides. Imagine Kale appearing today, transported 40,000 years through time into your world. His massive 1,600 cubic centimeter brain, his robust physique, his keen senses, all of it shaped by Ice Age selection pressures.
How would he fare?
Not well, probably. His brain would be a liability, not an advantage. That 500-calorie daily energy requirement would be difficult to meet with a sedentary modern lifestyle. His neural systems, optimized for constant environmental scanning, would find static indoor environments understimulating and possibly distressing. His cognitive architecture, designed for comprehensive generalist knowledge, would struggle with the extreme specialization modern life demands. Kyle would need to learn reading, a skill his visual system wasn't prepared for. He'd need to understand abstract symbolic systems, money, laws, bureaucratic procedures that have no connection to physical reality. He'd need to maintain focus during long periods of sitting still, something his movement-oriented brain never evolved to handle. He'd need to navigate social hierarchies involving thousands of people far beyond his tribal-scale social cognition. Most challenging, he'd need to accept massive dependence on systems outside his control. No amount of personal knowledge would make him self-sufficient in modern civilization. He couldn't hunt his own food, that's illegal and impractical. He couldn't build his own shelter. Building codes and property laws prevent it. He couldn't rely on his navigational skills. He'd need addresses, maps, GPS to function. His magnificent brain, perfect for Ice Age survival, would be poorly adapted for modern life. This is the crucial insight that should let you sink even deeper into peaceful rest. You are perfectly adapted for your world, just as he was for his. Evolution doesn't move toward better in any absolute sense. It moves toward fit, toward matching organisms to their environments. Kyle's large brain fit the Ice Age perfectly. Your smaller brain fits modernity perfectly. Neither is superior. Both are optimized for their specific contexts. Feel your breath, slow and natural, as this truth settles into deep understanding. You are not a degraded human. You are not evolution's failure. You are precisely calibrated for your actual life, carrying exactly the cognitive capabilities your environment requires. Your smaller brain gives you advantages Kyle never had. Lower energy requirements mean you can survive on less food, can redirect calories toward other functions, can maintain cognitive performance even when nutritional resources are limited. In modern contexts where food is abundant but often nutritionally poor, this efficiency matters. Your neural plasticity exceeds his. You can learn novel skills faster, adapt to changing circumstances more readily, rewire your brain's connections more flexibly. In a world that changes as rapidly as ours does, this adaptability is more valuable than raw processing power. Your specialization capacity exceeds his. Kale needed to be a generalist, decent at everything, master of broad competence. You can afford to specialize deeply, becoming expert in narrow domains, knowing that other specialists will handle areas outside your expertise. This enables the elaborate division of labor that makes modern civilization possible. Your emotional regulation exceeds his. You navigate complex social environments requiring subtle emotional calibration. You maintain relationships across different contexts. You manage your emotional responses to abstract concerns. Kyle's emotional life was simpler, more direct, less elaborately controlled. Your integration with collective intelligence exceeds anything he could imagine. Your brain doesn't need to store everything because you can access humanity's accumulated knowledge instantly. You participate in a species-wide consciousness that solves problems no individual could solve. As you rest here, release completely any sense of inadequacy about your brain's size. You are enough. Your brain is enough. You are exactly as evolution shaped you to be, perfectly adequate for modern human life. If you needed a larger brain, evolution would have maintained it. The fact that brains shrunk over 10,000 years proves that smaller brains provide survival advantages in agricultural and civilized contexts. You are the successful outcome of that selection process, not its victim. Kale, magnificent as he was, would envy your advantages if he could understand them. Your literacy, your access to information, your specialization, your integration into vast social networks, your ability to learn rapidly, these would seem like superpowers to him. Compensations far beyond whatever he possessed, through sheer brain size. And here's something beautiful to contemplate as sleep approaches. You can access some of Kale's lost capabilities if you choose. You can practice navigation and strengthen your hippocampus. You can spend time in nature and reactivate dormant environmental awareness. You can build deep relationships and engage ancestral social cognition. You can learn practical skills and reconnect with physical competence. The ancient capacities aren't gone. They're dormant, waiting for appropriate stimulation. Your smaller brain still contains the structures Kale used. The hippocampus is there. The visual cortex is there. The parietal regions are there. They're smaller, less robust, but functional and capable of strengthening through use, so you get the best of both worlds. Modern advantages of efficiency, plasticity and specialization, plus potential access to ancient capabilities if you intentionally cultivate them. You're not trapped by your smaller brain. You're empowered by its flexibility. Feel deep peace settling over you like a warm blanket. You are exactly right. Your brain is exactly right. Kale was exactly right for his time. You are exactly right for yours. Evolution doesn't make mistakes at this scale. If you exist, if your brain is this size, it's because this configuration works for your environment. Tomorrow you can wake refreshed, secure in the knowledge that your 1350 cubic centimeter brain is precisely what you need, neither too large nor too small, but exactly calibrated for being human in the 21st century. And tonight, you can sleep peacefully, knowing that understanding your evolutionary history helps you appreciate rather than doubt your present capabilities. Your smaller brain still contains the ancient structures. They're there right now in your skull as you rest here in comfortable darkness. The hippocampus that Kale used for memorizing territories, you have it too. The visual cortex that passed landscapes for survival information, present in your neural architecture. The parietal regions handling spatial reasoning, still functional, still capable, they're just dormant, not dead, waiting for the right stimulation. Like muscles that weaken without use but strengthen with exercise, your ancient cognitive capacities remain available if you choose to activate them. Modern neuroscience proves this through remarkable research. Scientists studying London taxi drivers who must memorize 25,000 streets and thousands of landmarks to earn their license discovered something extraordinary. After 3 years of intensive navigation training, taxi drivers show measurably larger hippocampi than matched control subjects. Their brains physically grew in response to spatial memory demands. This is neuroplasticity in action. Your adult brain, despite being smaller than Kale's, retains the ability to strengthen ancient systems through appropriate use. The Ice Age capacities haven't disappeared. They've simply receded, waiting dormant for environmental challenges that make them necessary again. As your breath slows, consciousness lowering naturally towards sleep, consider what tomorrow might bring. Simple practices done regularly can reawaken these ancestral abilities without requiring Ice Age brain size. You can strengthen your hippocampus through navigation without GPS. You can enhance visual processing through nature observation. You can deepen social cognition through face-to-face relationships. You can improve spatial reasoning through physical skill development. Start with navigation. Tomorrow perhaps you might walk a familiar route but pay attention differently.
Notice landmarks.
Create a mental map. Track your position and direction. Each time you do this, your hippocampus activates, neural pathways strengthen, spatial memory systems engage. Over weeks and months, this practice measurably changes brain structure. Spend time in nature, not just passing through, but really observing. Notice plant species. Watch animal behavior. Track weather patterns. Read the landscape the way Kale did. Your visual cortex will activate more fully. Your environmental awareness will deepen. Ancient processing systems will wake from their modern dormancy, build deep relationships, not hundreds of shallow social media connections, but a small number of truly intimate bonds where you know people fully, track their lives closely, invest cognitive resources in understanding them deeply. This engages the social cognition systems that Kyle used within his tribe, systems that evolved for quality over quantity. Learn physical skills. Work with your hands. Build things. Practice activities requiring fine motor control and spatial reasoning, whether woodworking, gardening, cooking, crafts, or sports. These activities engage parietal and motor cortex regions that modern sedentary life leaves understimulated. Practice memory deliberately. Instead of photographing everything, sometimes just remember. Look carefully, encode deliberately, retrieve intentionally. Your biological memory systems will strengthen with use, becoming more reliable, more accessible, more capable of storing information without external aids. These aren't demands.
They're invitations.
Gentle possibilities for tomorrow and beyond, ways to honor your ancient heritage while living fully in the modern world. Your smaller brain doesn't prevent these practices, it accommodates them alongside modern capabilities that Kyle never possessed. Feel yourself sinking deeper now, knowing that growth remains possible, that dormant capacities await activation, that your brain's plasticity allows continuous development throughout life.
You're not fixed.
You're not limited. You're evolutionary sophisticated, capable of both modern specialization and ancient generalism if you choose to cultivate both. The research shows that adults who practice these activities don't just maintain cognitive function, they enhance it. Hippocampal volume can increase, neural connectivity can strengthen, processing speed can improve. Your smaller brain, given appropriate challenges, responds with remarkable adaptation. And here's something beautiful. Activating these ancient capacities often improves modern well-being. People who practice navigation report better spatial confidence and reduced anxiety about getting lost. Those who spend time in nature show decreased stress and improved mood. Individuals who build deep relationships experience greater life satisfaction. Those who learn physical skills develop enhanced self-efficacy. Your Ice Age brain structures, when properly stimulated, don't just provide ancient capabilities, they contribute to contemporary mental health. This suggests that some modern psychological challenges might stem from understimulation of neural systems that evolved for richer environmental engagement than modern life typically provides. Tomorrow, when you wake, you might notice opportunities to engage these systems. A chance to walk somewhere without GPS, a moment to really observe your surroundings, an interaction where you listen deeply to another person, a task requiring physical skill and spatial reasoning. Each of these micro moments activates dormant ancestral capacities. You don't need to abandon modern life to honor ancient heritage. You can integrate both, using GPS when efficiency matters, but navigating manually when time permits, maintaining digital connections but prioritizing face-to-face relationships, accessing external information but also strengthening biological memory. This integration is perhaps the highest expression of human evolution, not regression to pure Ice Age existence, not wholesale adoption of pure modernity, but conscious combination of ancient capabilities with contemporary advantages. Your flexible plastic brain enables exactly this synthesis. As sleep approaches, as consciousness continues its natural descent, carry this knowledge gently. Tomorrow offers countless small opportunities to wake your dormant Ice Age capacities, not through dramatic lifestyle changes, not through rejection of modern conveniences, but through mindful choices to occasionally engage ancestral systems that your smaller, more efficient brain still fully contains. You are simultaneously ancient and modern, carrying forward prehistoric neural architecture while living in contemporary contexts. This isn't contradiction, it's the beautiful complexity of being human in the 21st century, embodying millions of years of evolution while participating in civilization's rapid cultural development. Rest deeply, knowing that your potential extends in both directions, deeper into modern specialization and back toward ancient generalism. Your brain's remarkable plasticity allows both. Your evolutionary heritage provides both. Your conscious choices tomorrow determine which capacities strengthen and which remain dormant. The path forward isn't choosing between Ice Age and modern capabilities. It's honoring both, integrating both, becoming fully human by embracing the entire span of your cognitive heritage. And that journey begins not with dramatic transformation, but with small, gentle practices tomorrow, simple ways to wake what sleeps, strengthen what weakens, remember what you've temporarily forgotten but never truly lost.
Kale sleeps when darkness comes.
Not because he decides to sleep, but because his brain's circadian rhythms, synchronized perfectly with natural light cycles, make wakefulness impossible after sunset. No artificial lighting extends his day. No blue screens confuse his melatonin production. No abstract worries keep his mind spinning after environmental challenges have ended. He sits by the fire as evening deepens. The flames provide the only light, warm, orange, flickering at frequencies far slower than electric bulbs or digital displays. This firelight, the light humans evolved with for hundreds of thousands of years, signals his brain's pineal gland to begin melatonin secretion. Consciousness naturally lowers. Sleep arrives effortlessly. His sleep is deeper than yours typically is.
More continuous, more restorative.
Without artificial lighting disrupting circadian rhythms, without stimulants extending wakefulness, without noise pollution fragmenting rest, Kyle's sleep follows patterns optimal for human physiology. His dreams are vivid, incorporating the day's experiences with emotional and spatial memories. His brain consolidates survival-relevant information during sleep, the location of food sources discovered today, the behavior patterns of animals observed, the social dynamics that shifted during evening conversation. Sleep isn't just rest for Kyle's brain, it's essential processing time that literally increases his survival chances tomorrow. You still have this same sleep machinery. Your brain, right now, as consciousness lowers, is preparing for these identical processes. The circadian rhythms are the same. The melatonin production follows the same pathways. The memory consolidation during sleep operates through unchanged mechanisms. Your smaller brain didn't alter sleep's fundamental biology. It just became possible for modern life to disrupt what should be automatic. As you settle deeper into this pre-sleep state, feel yourself reconnecting with ancient sleep wisdom that your brain never forgot. Your body knows how to do this. Your neural systems have been refined through millions of years of evolution to handle sleep transitions perfectly. You don't have to try, you just have to allow. The story you're hearing right now serves a function similar to Kale's evening fire circle. Shared stories before sleep helped Ice Age humans transition from wakefulness to rest, processing the day through narrative, connecting individual experience to collective meaning, finding psychological closure that enabled peaceful sleep. Your brain responds to this ancient pattern even now. Stories at bedtime create psychological containers that hold daytime experiences, provide emotional resolution, and signal that conscious processing can cease. This isn't childish, it's deeply human, connecting you to 300,000 years of evening rituals that prepared ancestors for rest. Tonight, as you finally release into sleep, whether in the next few minutes or the next hour, your brain will do what Kyle's brain did 40,000 years ago. It will consolidate memories, sorting important information from trivial details. It will process emotions, integrating daytime experiences into your psychological structure. It will restore neural function, clearing metabolic waste that accumulates during wakefulness. It will prepare for tomorrow, organizing neural systems for optimal next-day performance. This all happens automatically. Your smaller brain, your efficient 1350 cubic centimeter neural processor, handles these tasks with the same competence that Kale's larger brain did. Sleep quality doesn't depend on brain size, it depends on allowing natural processes to unfold without modern disruptions. Feel the ancient rhythm pulling you now. The fire of your consciousness is burning low like coals at night's end. The darkness around you, whether physical or merely the darkness of closed eyes, connects you to every human who ever rested under night skies. Your breath, slow and gentle, matches the timeless pattern of sleeping humans across all generations. Tomorrow, when you wake, refreshed by sleep's restoration, memories consolidated, emotions processed, you might notice how Ice Age sleep wisdom could serve you. Perhaps earlier bedtimes following natural circadian rhythms, maybe reduce screen time before sleep, honoring light's role in melatonin production. Possibly evening rituals that provide psychological closure, creating clear transitions from wakefulness to rest. But tonight, simply allow. Allow your brain to do what it's done for millions of years. Allow consciousness to lower as naturally as sunset follows day. Allow sleep to arrive in its own time, through its own ancient pathways, without force or resistance. Kyle never fought sleep. He never lay awake worrying about whether he'd sleep well. He simply allowed his brain's natural systems to operate, trusting in processes perfected through endless generations of evolutionary refinement. You can trust these same processes tonight. Your modern concerns, tomorrow's obligations, unfinished tasks, social anxieties can wait. They'll still be there tomorrow when your rested brain handles them more effectively. Tonight belongs to rest, to release, to the ancient wisdom of consciousness lowering towards sleep's restorative darkness. As the boundary between waking and sleeping grows thin, as thoughts become dreamlike and consciousness fragments into pre-sleep imagery, you're experiencing exactly what Kale experienced, the human brain's elegant transition from day mode to night mode, from active processing to restorative maintenance. This is your inheritance. This is your birthright. This is the ancient gift your smaller but still perfectly capable brain carries forward. The ability to sleep deeply, dream richly, wake restored. Sleep tonight as humans have always slept, as evolution designed you to sleep, as your brain desperately wants to sleep if modern life simply permits it. Kyle stored everything internally. Every plant location, every animal behavior pattern, every social obligation, every practical technique, all of it lived solely in his biological memory. When he died, all of it died with him except what he'd successfully transmitted to others through teaching and demonstration. You don't have to live this way. You have something Kale never imagined, the ability to extend your brain beyond your skull, to store information externally, to create systems that augment your smaller biological memory with unlimited external capacity. This isn't cheating. This isn't weakness. This is the brilliant strategy that allowed human brains to shrink while human capabilities expanded. External memory systems, writing, books, databases, digital storage liberate your internal brain for processing, reasoning and creativity rather than mere storage. As you rest here, consciousness lowering, consider how you might build your own external brain tomorrow. Not to replace internal memory, but to complement it, allowing your efficient biological brain to focus on what it does best, while external systems handle what they do best. A simple journal serves this function. Morning pages capturing thoughts before they dissipate, evening reflections providing closure on the day's experiences, weekly reviews consolidating learning and progress. This external thinking system extends your brain's processing capacity by creating permanent records of internal experiences that would otherwise fade or distort over time. Note-taking systems, whether physical notebooks or digital apps, function as external memory storage. You encounter an idea worth remembering, you capture it externally, and your brain no longer bears the burden of maintaining that memory actively. This frees neural resources for deeper processing rather than mere retention. Photo libraries serve as external visual memory. Instead of trying to remember every detail of experiences, You capture key images that trigger full memory retrieval later. Your brain stores the essence and emotional content. Photos provide the specific details. Together, internal and external memory create richer records than either could alone. Voice memos capture verbal thinking that's difficult to write down. Walking contemplations.
Sudden insights.
Complex reasoning that flows better spoken than written. These external recordings preserve thinking that would otherwise vanish, allowing you to return later and process more deeply. The most sophisticated external brain system is what productivity experts call a second brain, or Zettelkasten, a network of connected notes that mirrors how your biological brain links concepts. Each note captures one idea. Links between notes represent relationships between concepts. Over time, this external system develops emergent properties, revealing connections you didn't consciously create. Feel your breath slowing as you recognize that tomorrow offers opportunities to begin building these systems. Not elaborate, not complicated, but simple practices that extend your cognitive capacity beyond your skull. A morning journal, an evening gratitude list, a nature observation log, a reading notes collection. Each small system augments your biological brain's capabilities. The wisdom here is profound. Kyle needed his massive brain because he had no external storage. You don't need that massive brain because you can strategically build external systems. Your smaller brain plus well-designed external tools exceeds what his larger isolated brain could achieve. Modern neuroscience supports this approach. Research shows that trying to remember everything internally creates cognitive load that impairs reasoning and creativity. But strategically offloading appropriate information to external systems frees working memory for higher-level thinking. You literally think better when you stop trying to remember everything. Tomorrow, perhaps you start small.
One simple practice.
Morning pages, 3 pages of handwritten stream of consciousness first thing after waking. This external brain dump clears mental clutter, captures useful thoughts before they dissipate, and creates a permanent record of your inner life over time. Or evening reflections, 10 minutes before bed, reviewing the day, noting gratitudes, acknowledging challenges, setting intentions for tomorrow. This provides psychological closure that improves sleep while creating external memory that tracks your life's patterns over months and years. Or weekly reviews, 30 minutes every Sunday, consolidating the week's experiences, evaluating progress toward goals, adjusting plans for the coming week. This meta-cognitive practice that Kale never needed becomes essential for navigating modern complexity. These external brain systems don't diminish you.
They complete you.
They allow your efficient biological brain to operate optimally while external systems handle what they handle better. Together, internal and external create cognitive capacity exceeding anything Ice Age brains achieved in isolation. As sleep approaches, release any resistance to this strategy. You're not betraying your brain by using external tools. You're honoring its actual strengths, processing, reasoning, creating, while compensating for its natural limitations in storage and retrieval. This is wisdom, not weakness. Kale would envy this if he understood it. The ability to preserve thoughts permanently, to build knowledge systems that survive your death, to access information instantly without biological memory load, to think at higher levels precisely because lower-level storage is handled externally. Your smaller brain enabled this. If humans still had 1,600 cubic centimeter brains consuming 500 calories daily, we couldn't support the population densities that create libraries, universities, research institutions, and digital infrastructure. We couldn't afford the specialization that produces people who dedicate entire careers to building knowledge systems. Rest deeply tonight, knowing that tomorrow offers chances to build your external brain incrementally. Not through massive projects, but through small, consistent practices that accumulate over time into powerful augmentation of your biological capabilities. Will human brains continue shrinking? This question drifts through the scientific community, generating speculation and research. The answer, as you rest here, consciousness lowering, is probably not. We've reached equilibrium. Human brain size has been stable at around 1,350 cubic centimeters for roughly 10,000 years. That's 500 generations, plenty of time for evolution to push brains smaller if smaller brains provided advantages. But brain size isn't decreasing anymore. We've apparently found the optimal size for modern human life. This stability makes sense. Brains can't shrink much further without losing essential capacities. Certain cognitive functions require minimum neural substrate. Language processing needs sufficient cortical area. Executive function requires adequate prefrontal cortex. Social cognition demands substantial temporal lobe tissue. Below 1,300 cubic centimeters, these systems begin failing. Microcephaly, a condition where brains develop significantly smaller than normal, demonstrates this limit. People with severe microcephaly suffer intellectual disabilities because their brains lack sufficient tissue for normal human cognition. There's a floor below which brain size cannot fall without losing what makes us human. So evolution has found balance. Small enough for efficiency, large enough for capability. Your 1,350 cubic centimeter brain represents this equilibrium, refined over 10,000 years of selection in agricultural and civilized contexts. But the future of human cognition isn't about brain size anymore. It's about brain technology integration, collective intelligence amplification, and cultural transmission of knowledge. Evolution now acts on neural organization and connectivity patterns rather than gross size. Your children will probably have brains the same size as yours, but their brains might wire differently, developing neural architectures optimized for information age challenges that didn't exist in your childhood. Digital literacy, multitasking capabilities, rapid information processing. These might become more prominent as young brains develop in media-rich environments. This isn't genetic evolution, it's developmental plasticity. The same genome creates different neural configurations depending on environmental inputs during critical developmental windows. Your children's brains, exposed to different stimulation patterns than yours received, will organize themselves differently while maintaining the same basic size and structure. Feel yourself sinking deeper as you
Recognize you're living in the bridge moment between prehistoric
isolation and future interconnection. Behind you stretches millions of years of brain evolution culminating in Ice Age giants. Before you extends potentially millions more years of collective intelligence development, you stand at the pivot point, carrying forward ancient heritage while participating in emerging planetary consciousness. The most exciting frontier isn't brain enlargement, but brain-computer interfaces. Technologies that directly connect neural tissue to external processing systems, allowing thoughts to control devices, enabling instant information access, facilitating direct brain-to-brain communication. This could create cognitive enhancement exceeding anything biological evolution could achieve in millennia. But even without technological augmentation, humanity's collective intelligence continues accelerating. Knowledge accumulation speeds up. Scientific discovery accelerates. Cultural transmission improves. Your species-wide cognitive capacity grows, even while individual brain size remains stable. You participate in this acceleration through your choices. Every time you learn something and share it, you add to collective knowledge. Every time you connect ideas creatively, you contribute to humanity's ongoing cognitive evolution. Every conversation, every written thought, every teaching moment, all of this feeds the planetary brain that transcends any individual skull. As sleep approaches, feel the vast temporal sweep of human cognitive history. From early hominids with small brains to Ice Age giants with massive brains to modern humans with efficient brains to future humans with augmented and collectively enhanced cognition.
You're not the endpoint.
You're a moment in an ongoing story that continues beyond your individual existence. Your brain size might not change, But human cognitive capacity will continue expanding through collective intelligence, technological augmentation, and cultural evolution. The story that began with Kale's 1600 cubic centimeter brain continues through your 1350 cubic centimeter brain toward futures we can barely imagine. Tomorrow, when you wake into this continuing evolution. Your choices matter. Your learning contributes. Your connections amplify. Your participation in collective intelligence shapes humanity's cognitive future in small but real ways. This understanding should bring profound peace as consciousness lowers towards sleep. You're part of something vast, ancient and ongoing. Not alone, not isolated, not insignificant, but connected across deep time to past and future, contributing your small but essential piece to humanity's grand cognitive adventure. Picture this, Kale and you sitting together by a fire. Not in Ice Age past, not in modern present, but in some imagined space where time collapses, where ancient and contemporary meet, where the full span of human cognitive history converges in a single moment of recognition and mutual respect. Kyle teaches you to read weather in clouds, subtle color shifts that indicate approaching storms, formations that predict wind changes, textures that suggest precipitation timing. He shows you animal tracks in imagined mud, this one fresh, that one hours old, these indicating fear, those showing calm movement. He describes plant locations across territory, this hillside in spring, that valley in summer, these stream banks in autumn. You listen, your smaller brain absorbing information that his larger brain stored effortlessly. You struggle a bit with the volume of detail, the spatial precision, the integration of multiple sensory inputs. Your brain wasn't designed for this level of environmental knowledge storage, but you can learn it partially enough to appreciate what his brain did naturally. Then you teach Kale. You show him writing, how arbitrary symbols can preserve thoughts permanently, how future humans can access present knowledge, how information transcends individual biology. His massive brain, encountering this for the first time, struggles with the abstraction.
Reading isn't natural.
Nothing in evolution prepared brains for interpreting marks on surfaces as language. You explain mathematics, how pure symbolic reasoning can model reality, how abstract manipulation of numbers reveals deep truths, how calculations can predict outcomes before experiencing them. His brain, so concrete and experiential, finds this difficult. Abstract symbolic reasoning, divorced from immediate physical reality, feels foreign to neural systems shaped by direct environmental engagement. You describe the internet, billions of minds connected, knowledge accessible instantly, collective intelligence spanning the planet.
His brain cannot quite grasp this.
The scale, the abstraction, the technological mediation, it's too far beyond his evolutionary context. But he tries, and in his effort, you see the fundamental sameness underneath the surface differences. Both brains are human. Both are miraculous. Both represent peaks of evolutionary achievement. His for Ice Age survival, yours for modern navigation of complex cultural environments. Neither is superior in any absolute sense. Both are perfectly adapted for their contexts. As you breathe slowly, sinking deeper into rest, feel this truth settling into your bones. You don't need to choose between ancient and modern capabilities. You don't need to reject one to embrace the other. You can honor both, integrate both, become fully human by accepting the entire span of your cognitive heritage. Tomorrow offers opportunities for this integration. Spend time in nature, activating ancient environmental awareness while also reading books that activate modern literacy. Navigate without GPS occasionally, strengthening spatial memory systems while also using technology when efficiency matters. Build deep face-to-face relationships, engaging tribal social cognition while also maintaining digital connections that span the globe. This integration isn't contradiction, it's wholeness. Your brain contains both ancient and modern structures. Your cognitive capacities span both environmental mastery and cultural navigation. Your potential extends in both directions, deeper into nature and further into civilization. The practice is simple but profound. Honor your ancient brain's needs while embracing your modern brain's capabilities. Give yourself natural complexity, trees, weather, animals, landscapes. Give yourself cultural complexity, books, art, ideas, innovations.
Feed both hungers.
Satisfy both needs. Become complete. Kale, in this imagined meeting, respects what you've become. He sees that your smaller brain, augmented by culture and technology, achieves things his isolated, larger brain never could. You respect what he was, environmentally competent, self-sufficient, comprehensively skilled. Together you represent the full spectrum of human cognitive potential. Feel yourself there by that fire, ancient and modern united, past and present merged, recognizing that you carry forward both lineages. You are Kale's descendant, shaped by his genes, inheriting his neural architecture. You are also your own unique moment, shaped by modernity, developing capabilities he never possessed. This balance is available tomorrow, not through dramatic lifestyle changes, but through mindful choices. Walk to work sometimes. Cook from scratch occasionally. Learn a physical skill. Spend time outdoors. These simple practices honor ancient heritage.
Read deeply.
Learn continuously. Connect globally. Think abstractly. These honor modern capabilities. You need both. Your brain needs both. Your well-being requires both. Too much modern without ancient creates disconnection and anxiety. Too much ancient without modern rejects legitimate achievements and opportunities. Integration, balance, wholeness, these are the path forward. As sleep comes closer, as consciousness continues its gentle descent, carry this image with you, Kale and you, by the fire, different but united, ancient and modern but both completely human, teaching each other, learning from each other, recognizing in each other the full beauty of what it means to have a human brain across deep time. Tomorrow, you wake knowing you contain both. You carry Kale in your neural structures, the hippocampus, the visual cortex, the social cognition systems. You carry modernity in your cultural knowledge, literacy, mathematics, technological fluency. You are both. You honor both. You integrate both into a life that would astound both your Ice Age ancestors and your recent agricultural ancestors. This is your inheritance. This is your opportunity. This is the gift of living now in this particular historical moment, carrying ancient wisdom forward while participating in modern emergence. Sleep tonight knowing you are complete, adequate, perfectly positioned to honor both brains, the large ancient one you inherited in modified form, and the smaller modern one you actually possess. The fire is dying now. Kale, in his Ice Age cave 40,000 years ago, feels consciousness lowering as flames reduce to coals. The day's hunting is done. The evening stories are told. His massive 1,600 cubic centimeter brain, that extraordinary biological computer, begins its nightly shutdown sequence. Melatonin floods his system.
His eyelids grow heavy.
Sleep comes naturally, effortlessly, as it has for every human who ever lived, in alignment with natural rhythms. You in your modern bed feel the same process beginning. Your 1,350 cubic centimeter brain, that efficient and sophisticated neural processor, initiates identical shutdown procedures, the same neurochemicals, the same circadian rhythms, the same ancient preparation for sleep that connects you across 40,000 years to Kyle and every human who came between. Both brains, different in size but united in function, preparing for rest. Both humans, separated by time but connected by biology, releasing the day and surrendering to night. Both consciousnesses, unique in detail but similar in essence, lowering towards sleep's restorative darkness. Your brain is perfect. Not despite being smaller than Kale's, but precisely because evolution optimized it for your world, just as his was optimized for his. Every cubic centimeter you possess is exactly what you need. Every neural structure is precisely calibrated. Every cognitive capacity is appropriately scaled for modern human life. Feel this truth deeply as you sink into final relaxation. Your brain is not inadequate.
It's not diminished.
It's not a degraded version of something better that came before. It's a different optimization for different challenges, shaped by 10,000 years of selection in agricultural and civilized contexts. You possess capabilities Kyle never had. Your learning speed exceeds his. Your neural plasticity surpasses his. Your capacity for rapid adaptation in changing environments outstrips his more rigid, specialized systems. Your integration into collective intelligence networks transcends anything his isolated brain could achieve, and you retain, in dormant form, capacities he relied on daily. Your hippocampus can strengthen with navigation practice. Your visual cortex can sharpen through nature observation. Your social cognition can deepen through authentic relationship. The ancient neural structures remain, waiting for your choice to activate them. This means you get everything: modern efficiency and ancient potential, specialized capability and general adaptability, individual processing and collective connection. Your smaller brain doesn't limit you. It positions you perfectly at the intersection of multiple cognitive strategies, able to draw on whichever serves your present moment's needs. As sleep approaches now, very close now, consciousness fragmenting into pre-dream imagery, breath barely perceptible in its slowness, body completely released into rest, as all of this unfolds naturally, ancient and unstoppable. Feel the blessing of your perfect brain settling over you like warm darkness. Kale's ancestors give you permission to rest. Every human who came before you, from the first emergence of your species 200,000 years ago through Ice Age giants, to agricultural villagers, to modern urban dwellers, every single one of them whispers permission. You can rest now. You've done enough. Your brain is enough.
You are enough. The story of why Ice Age humans had 40% bigger brains than you isn't a story of loss.
It's a story of transformation, adaptation, optimization for changed circumstances. It's a story of collective intelligence emerging from individual brain shrinkage. It's a story of cultural evolution accelerating beyond biological evolution. It's a story of humanity becoming something new while retaining everything essential from the past. You are the current chapter in this ongoing story. Your 1,350 cubic centimeter brain represents where evolution has brought humanity after millions of years of development. You are not the endpoint. Evolution continues, but you are a beautiful, functional, successful expression of human cognitive potential in the early 21st century. Tomorrow, you wake into this knowledge. Tomorrow, you carry forward both ancient wisdom and modern capability. Tomorrow, you make choices about which cognitive capacities to strengthen, which external systems to build, how to integrate natural and cultural inputs into a life that honors your full inheritance. But tonight is for sleep. Tonight is for releasing every concern, every question, every doubt. Tonight is for trusting the ancient processes that your brain handles automatically, the shutdown sequences refined through endless generations, the transition from waking to sleeping that requires nothing from your conscious mind. Your brain knows what to do. It's doing it now. Melatonin production increasing, core body temperature dropping slightly, neural activity shifting from high-frequency beta waves through alpha relaxation toward theta sleep induction. All of this happens without your effort, without your control, perfectly orchestrated by systems shaped through millions of years of evolutionary refinement. Kyle's fire has become coals now, barely glowing in the darkness. His tribe sleeps around him, 40 humans, 40 brains of various sizes, but all massive by modern standards, all processing the day's experiences, all consolidating memories, all restoring function for tomorrow's challenges. He is safe in their presence, held by community, protected by numbers, secure in the ancient human knowledge that sleep among trusted others is the deepest, most restorative sleep. You too are safe, not surrounded by 40 tribe mates in a cave, but held nonetheless by the vast web of human connection, the civilization that protects you, the knowledge systems that support you, the collective intelligence that enfolds you. You sleep alone perhaps, but you're never truly alone. 8 billion human brains share the planet with you, many sleeping right now as you sleep, all connected through invisible threads of culture, technology,
and shared humanity. This is the blessing, connection across time to Kale and every ancestor.
connection across space to every contemporary human, connection forward to future generations who will inherit what you contribute to collective knowledge. Your brain, perfect in its size and capability, serves as a node in this vast network, both receiving and transmitting, both learning and teaching, both individual and collective, as you release completely now, as the last threads of waking consciousness dissolve, as sleep finally claims you fully. Feel gratitude for your perfect brain. Gratitude for its efficiency, its plasticity, its adequacy for every challenge you actually face. Gratitude for carrying forward ancient structures while developing modern capabilities. Gratitude for participating in humanity's ongoing cognitive evolution. May you rest as deeply as Kale rested 40,000 years ago. May your dreams carry ancient wisdom into modern consciousness. May your sleep restore, refresh, and renew every neural system. May you wake tomorrow knowing you are exactly as you should be, smaller-brained perhaps than your Ice Age ancestors, but larger-souled, more connected, more capable in ways they never imagined. The ancient firekeeper, the one who tended flames through countless Ice Age nights, looks across time and space directly at you now and says, "Your fire can rest. The watch is kept. The darkness is safe. Sleep now, modern human, carrying my blessing forward. Sleep deeply. Sleep peacefully. Sleep knowing you are held in the long embrace of human consciousness that never ends, never falters, never abandons its own." And so, you sleep.
Kale sleeping in his time.
You sleeping in yours. Both human, both blessed.
Both perfect.
Both exactly right for the moment you occupy in the vast sweep of evolutionary time. Tomorrow night, if you wish, another story awaits. Perhaps about Ice Age dreams and what they reveal about consciousness. Perhaps about the first humans who learned to make fire and how it changed their brains. Perhaps about why modern humans can see fewer stars but imagine further into space. But tonight is complete. Tonight has everything you need. Tonight is the blessing of understanding why Ice Age humans had 40% bigger brains than you, and why your smaller brain is precisely, perfectly, exactly right, safe and warm in ancient wisdom, drifting into modern dreams, held by collective consciousness across time and space. Rest now. Perfect human with your perfect brain. The story is told. The fire burns low. The ancient night accepts you. Sleep well.